Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to For the Record episode number 58. It is nice to be back. I know the episodes have been a little bit sporadic, and I do apologize for that. We're finally back on schedule and we have enough episodes to actually start posting again Wednesday through Friday. It just took a little bit of time due to some recording stuff that we had going on, but it has been an insane week. Actually not just an insane week, an insane past like 3 weeks have been madness, and I can't believe how many emotions I've experienced in one sitting, over the period of these few weeks, but honestly, I honestly wouldn't trade for anything. I've learned more about myself and about what I love and what I want to do than I probably ever have, and I couldn't be more grateful, for everything that's been going on, and for the support the podcast, the site itself, all this other stuff has been getting, and it's been mind-blowing, and just thank you so much to everyone who's been showing such a great deal of support. Anyway, this next episode, I can't fucking believe I get to post this. I'm super excited. This episode was with Ray Toro, and Ray used to be the lead guitarist in a little band called My Chemical Romance. I'm sure unless you're living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard of them before. And if not, seriously, fix that and go listen to all of their shit because they were fantastic. And on top of that, Ray has an amazing new solo record coming out in the next couple weeks called Remember the Laughter, and he sent it to me before we did this podcast. We did it over the phone, and it was, my God, it's so good. It's so different from what everybody has been used to hearing My Chemical Romance wise, but man, it's so good. That element of theatricality and storytelling is still there, and we talk about it in this episode in the way that he went about writing it and all these things, and it was such a good chat. He was genuinely the nicest fucking dude ever. It was so cool, and it's like one of those things where you meet someone you really like, or not necessarily meet, but talk to them over the phone, and someone you really like, and you're like, oh god, I hope that they're really cool, and he totally was, and it was so wonderful. And Ray, you are welcome back on anytime if you were listening to this. But we're going to post all the information about his new solo album in the description of the podcast. You can go and get it. Please pre-order it and support the release of this record. I promise you it'll be worth it. It's such a fun listen, and it's really, it's definitely worth your time. This episode has been sponsored by Audible.com. You like to read, right? But you may not necessarily have the time to do so. Well, Audible.com, company through Amazon, allows you to do something really incredible, which is download audiobooks. So you can digest a full book while in your car, or at the gym, on the treadmill, or wherever you can go. It's very ideal for people who want to read and really love to commit to a book, but don't necessarily have the time to sit down and pull out a book and read. I wish that all the books that I wanted to read were on audiobooks, but unfortunately that's not the case. But the ones that I have been able to listen to and that I've been able to purchase through Audible have been absolutely fantastic. Perfect example, this is a book that was released a few years ago, but the example holds up nonetheless. It was a book called The Nerdist Way, by a guy that I admire very much. I very much admire his work, Mr. Chris Hardwick. He wrote this book, this like self-help book for people who are more creative-minded and but don't know how to channel that into stuff that is more relatable to the real world, like paying bills and being an adult and all that shit that's just hard to maintain. But he does this amazing job of breaking it down, and he did such an awesome job of doing it in this, like, I think it was probably like a 200 and something page book. I may be completely wrong on that, but anyway, what was awesome about it is that in the audiobook version, it's him reading it and giving all the examples, and so you hear all the little exclamations and things that he puts in the book in all caps and things like that. Like, he'll yell it and he'll exclaim it, and it's super awesome. And so a lot of audiobooks are like that, where they'll have the author, or they could cast other people, whether they're famous actors or voice actors, whoever the case, to read stories and really bring a completely new dimension to it. So if you would like a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial to give it a test for yourself and see. We guarantee you'll love it. Go to audibletrial.com/shamelesspromo. That link will also be in the description as well. But again, www.audibletrial.com/shamelesspromo. All right, here is episode number 58 with Ray Toro. Enjoy. Oh yeah, so there's one small thing I forgot to add about this when I was recording it, and I didn't even realize until after I finished it, which is why all the loop music has stopped. I recorded this in my car. I did not get a chance to do the studio. I'm super bummed I didn't get to, but at the same time, this was an interview that I really wanted to happen, and I wanted to make sure. The audio on it is totally fine, and I use tape-a-call recorder, which I do for all of my print interviews and for if I'm ever transcribing something, and then I use it for that. And then in an emergency situation where my schedule is too insane, there's going to be no chance to do it, I really didn't want to cancel and move it to a day. Things just got crazy. I work at Live 105 in San Francisco, the radio station, the CBS radio station. It was such a chaotic few days. We did the Kevin Kline live morning show that morning. I was running on 1 hour of sleep, and traffic was so bad getting back from San Francisco to Oakland. I just said, fuck it, and I did it in my car. I'm on the recorder. So my voice sounds like it's over the phone. It doesn't sound like it's through a microphone. Just a heads up, this is not typically the way I do podcasts, but my concern was I didn't really give a shit about me. I wanted to make sure that Ray could be heard, and that was the audio that I truly cared about and wanted to make sure, and it turned out awesome, and that's the important part of this. And again, to preface this, I always record with a microphone in some kind of a studio setting. This time I did not get to, but I honestly have no issues with it. I just wanted to give this little preface to explain my recording situation. And kids, if you're listening to this, I would not advise you to ever drive over the Bay Bridge during high traffic doing a podcast running on 1 hour of sleep and very little caffeine. All right, enjoy.
I'm great.
Great. I had sent a text a few minutes ago. I was kind of stuck in traffic, and I was unsure of how I was going to do this, but I found a way to actually do this.
Oh, cool.
Do the podcast on my phone. So, yeah, I've been in Bay Area traffic, which is like horrible. So
well, here's a question actually. I mean, if it's better for you, like I can do it later today, like maybe after, like, I don't know, maybe after like 3 or so. It depends on you if you want to do, if you're cool to do it now. But like the rest of my days are pretty open, so I don't know, like if audio quality wise this will work for you, or you'd rather be at home in your studio.
Oh, for sure. Well, I've kind of learned to roll with the punches and kind of go with things just as they kind of.
All right, cool. Yeah, that sounds good then.
Yeah, I would have loved to, trust me, I would have loved to have done this, but so I essentially, in addition to having my own side on the podcast, I run I have 2 jobs of my own, and as soon as I finish up my interview with you, I'm heading straight into the second one. I've been up since like 2 a.m.
Oh, work, Jesus, okay.
But I really wanted to talk to you. I sincerely wanted to do this, and I wanted to make sure it had it. The audio will turn out just fine. My voice will just sound like it's on the phone, but it'll be right.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so First off, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. I was really stoked to hear that you have solo material coming out. I've been a big follower of your music since My Chemical Romance, and I was beyond stoked to see that you had some of your own music coming out. I was really happy about that.
That's awesome. No, yeah, I'm definitely glad you got to check it out early. That was kind of cool. Like, I'm glad I thought of that to send it to you, because I didn't know, how exactly you wanted to do it. If you just wanted to talk about, like prior material or whatever. So it's cool to get to talk about the record.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I will. I'll definitely start by saying that it was. I mean, it kind of goes without saying that it was vastly different from anything I'd really heard with stuff like in My Chemical Romance, and going from seeing stuff like, I think I remember it was the like the behind the scenes DVD you guys released, the Life on the Murder Scene. You were talking about kind of your influences and how you were very big on Slayer and heavy metal, and then I listened to the record and I was like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting at all.
It's definitely definitely different. Like, on that DVD, I'm like, I was definitely known as, the guy who was like most into metal at that time, like Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, and whoever, Sabbath and whatnot. But it's funny, like around the same time too, and I feel like I started getting into classical guitar because of Randy Rhoads. There's that song D that he has on Blizzard of Oz, and it's like a classical guitar piece. So at the time, I didn't really know much about classical guitar, but because of that, I started looking a little bit further into like Andres Segovia and like Christopher Parkening, and kind of learning from that. And what's cool is a lot of metal players like Marty Friedman, from like he played with Megadeth. Like, you can hear classical guitar, like classical melodies and chord progressions in their playing. So I kind of started picking up the classical guitar, and then I got into string arrangements and orchestral stuff. So, it's a side of me that like people, I guess, obviously from my work in the band really wouldn't know about. But it's something that I love to do, and I was happy to explore that on my own material.
Absolutely. And I think, I wasn't sure what to expect when you were going to do original material, not in the sense that it wasn't going to be great material. I was totally confident in that, but I wasn't sure, because I knew you as a guitarist, and I didn't know if you were going to sing. And I was really happy to hear you sing, because years ago, I think it was when the Black Parade is Dead came out, because I had ordered it, and you got a couple of those songs beforehand, and there was on the track Dead, there was this vocal line that came in when Gerard stopped singing something, and I'm like, whoa, that guy's really good. Oh, fuck, that's Ray. That's awesome. I was totally thrown off by your vocal range, and so I was like, yes, he's actually singing on this. This is awesome. When did you, when did you come up with the idea that you wanted to create solo material and officially say, I want to put this out now. This is going to be a good time to do it, and I'm going to sing, and I'm going to take a step kind of outside of that. I mean, was singing something that was ever outside of your comfort zone?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that I feel like that was the biggest hurdle for me, and like the thing for me to get comfortable with. I'm extremely comfortable with an instrument in my hands, and obviously like more comfortable with the guitar because I've been playing it for so long. But also, I play a little bit of drums, a little bit of piano, and so like I feel it's a lot easier for me to express myself musically with an instrument. So that's kind of the thing that's crazy. Like vocals, like your voice is now the instrument, and there's so many different subtleties in delivery and enunciation and pronunciation of certain words, like to kind of get them to rhyme with other words. Like there's so many nuances that I just had no clue about at all.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest, definitely like the biggest hurdle and struggle. Like there was a lot of times where I do tracks and, kind of listen back and be like, I don't know if I should be singing. Like maybe I can find someone else to do it. But, my wife kept pushing me. She's like, you just have to once you find the range that you feel comfortable in and just kind of don't think about it, you'll be fine. So I just kind of followed her advice and like just kept doing it, and talked to like Gerard too. Like he's like that's the cool thing. Like we're even though the band broke up a bit ago, like we're all in communication. Everybody's still friends, and like we send each other the material that we're working on, and we get advice from each other. And I just basically took all that feedback and said, okay, I can do this. So that was like definitely like the biggest hurdle for me, working on the project. And as far as like when I decided to do it, I don't know, I guess it just really just came, it was just really born from my desire to make music. I didn't necessarily set out after the band and be like, yeah, I have to release a solo record. It just happened that I over the past couple of years have been writing a collection of songs that I was really proud of and really wanted to share with people. So it's just one of those things, like stuff just comes out from you and you feel like it needs to be born into the world, and so you go into the studio and sit for a couple hours or a couple days even, and you try to make as much magic happen as you can.
Oh, absolutely. And well, that's fantastic. I mean, when would you say maybe the first kind of blueprints or the first kind of tracks and ideas start to surface for you in terms of what we know now is, or what we're gonna know is Remember the Laughter? Right.
I guess really like close to like 3.5 years ago. And it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting period of time in my life because the band had just, well, actually my son, he's now he just turned 4.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was born, and then like a few weeks later, the band broke up. So it was like this strange, dichotomy, right, of like losing something, but also like gaining this incredible thing. So, around that period, I was just like, mentally going through a lot, and I found that expressing myself, and processing through music really helped me through that. So, like the first track on the record, Isn't That Something, is definitely like connected to that period. And I guess that was like the genesis of it. And, over the past like 3.5 years or so, I've definitely gone through different like musical phases where like I'll be on kind of like a certain sound or like working more on piano or string arrangements, and then I'll have a period working on guitar for a few months and like mainly playing guitar. So it's interesting because it gives the album like a lot of diversity, I feel, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't take my time doing it. So it was just really definitely like a little by little process where then towards the end I'm like, oh, well, I feel like I have like a full record now, and it's like a full complete thought and statement. It took me a while, but I also needed that time to develop as as a singer, as a solo songwriter. Obviously, like with my chem and in any prior work, like I was always writing with other people. So there's a learning curve to that, and I feel like I took the time I needed to get to learn it all and figure it out to the best of my ability.
Oh yeah, and I mean when you're going from a band that was at the level that my chem is, and having performed with other previous projects and doing stuff where you're used to collaborating, and then kind of like you were saying, there's that weird dichotomy of things that's happening. You had a son born, and then the band breaks up. You're kind of like, well, what now? Like,
absolutely.
Like a complete new, fresh start on how. But at the same time, it can be also there can be a weird beauty in it, because kind of like you were saying, how you would sometimes you'll mess more with piano, and then you'll go to guitar, and then it's almost like it makes music really, it shows you what's really exciting about music, because there's so many different little pieces to it.
Right. Yeah. That was definitely, something that was liberating, to be separated, sometimes from the guitar. Like there's some songs that, on the record that barely have any guitar at all. And what's cool about that actually is when the guitar comes in, or when I did decide like, okay, that this guitar part needs to be there, I felt like it was like everything was more impactful. I tried to do things, at least with the guitar, I tried to use it more sparingly in a weird way, like more as a kind of tucked back piece of the entire atmosphere of the songs. And I felt that was really exciting. And I got to develop ideas that I wouldn't have gotten to be able to before. That's one of the great things about working alone as a solo artist. Like, you get to explore different sides of your musical personality and your different influences, and hopefully people get to hear that on the record.
Absolutely. And I found it super interesting when listening to that record, because there was a bunch of songs. I mean, there's a number of songs where they all have a lot of variety to them, and they all kind of represent a different, I almost want to say a different kind of story. And then in between a lot of those songs, you have those little sound clips that maybe go for 10 to sometimes like 30 seconds. I was curious to know what those represented for the album as a whole, and maybe what it meant to you as a songwriter. What part that played in your process?
Right. So the interstitials, I felt like once I had the collection of songs together, and I really took a step back and realized, okay, so these are, all of these songs sort of represent a different period in my life over the past 3.5 years. And some of them, like the last track, Remember the Laughter, it was one of the earlier tracks written, but it was maybe a few months after I had my son, and I started thinking about my mortality and what do I want to leave with my son when I pass on. And so that's like the genesis of that song, and I feel like that was sort of the running theme throughout the album. Like, what do I want to tell my kid about the world, about life and my experiences in life, what I've learned and what my parents taught me. So there was all these sort of ideas of or themes of generations passing, and this kind of passing of the torch, passing of knowledge, and so I once I had this collection of songs together and sort of the main theme of the record, I felt like I needed some narrative pieces, or sort of like not placeholders, but kind of like callbacks to certain memories that this character may have had while listening to the song. So, the basic idea is sort of this older man goes back to his childhood home, and he hears a familiar melody coming from the attic. He goes up into the attic and finds this memory box, and inside the box are all these items from his life and his parents' life that kind of trigger these memories. And so the songs are connected to these items in the box and also his memories. And I feel like say Wedding Day, it's, remembering like a really important day in his life. And then also Father's Day, it's obviously a memory of how he spent one of his father's days with his son. And then the last track, before Remember the Laughter, it's called Waiting Room, and there's, basically an interstitial that's placing the son who's now at the house, and he's remembering where he was when his dad passed away. And so there's, I felt like it was important to put these little narrative pieces. The album isn't a very hard concept album. It's nothing like The Wall, where it's definitely almost where every song is really telling, really part of the bigger whole. Like, I feel like sometimes you can get boxed in a little bit, like with what songs you can write if you do that, because ultimately my main focus was writing tight songs, and a song that no matter what context it was, you can play any song, or at least is what I was going for. You can play any song and it feels good in that moment. I didn't want tracks just to tell a story in a sense. But I did feel it was important to link it all and have a running thread throughout that. So that's what the interstitials are for.
That's incredible. I mean, I had picked up on the idea of a story, but I never would have picked up on that if it wasn't explained. So I think it was awesome, and I think it's I think it's cool that the theatricality from a band like My Chem still carries over and still works into that, because that was something that I'd always loved about you guys, and the way that it was, you got a show and you got a story and you got this, you felt like you were really part of something, and I got that with this album. So I thought that was
cool. Yeah, I think it's super, was always important to us in the band. Like, to put albums out as a complete body of work and complete thought. Like Revenge, I think sort of got there, but I think that, sort of we had a little bit of a story, at least internally. I don't know if that was necessarily came across on the record, but Black Parade for sure. We always like to have a little bit more than just, 10 to 12 songs on a record. And that definitely carries over. That's kind of just been born in me. Those are the records that I like to listen to. Not necessarily all the time, but at least that's the music I like to make. I like to create like a body of work that you can put out and feel like, the listener can feel like they get lost in a world a little bit. I'm excited too when the record comes out and I'll probably, I had an idea for like maybe for a special edition to kind of collect photos of these items that were in the box. I should have sent it to you actually, because it kind of all links up. But the album artwork, kind of has a picture of this memory box, and it adds to the story. And I always like something where like a kid can pick up and they can kind of dive in and look closely. I don't know, maybe get a magnifying glass and look at the picture and see if they can figure out like what item in the box connects to which song. And then on the website, there's a lot of photography that I did that I felt connected to each of the songs as well. So you can find that on the website. So I as much as I could, with the tools that I had, I tried to really, create a little bit of a, like you said, like a world that kids could get themselves lost into.
Yeah. So is that where, because I noticed that there was one of the things that really stuck out to me, because I do music photography as well. So I was really drawn into the fact that you had all these photos and all these visuals that were going along with it, and it was helping with that story. But I noticed that there was a carousel on, I believe it was, I'm looking through, I believe it was on the back cover of the album.
Right. Yeah.
What does that represent? Because I feel like with you telling me about how it's kind of a kid looking into something and looking at this story, is that it kind of to me it seems like it's kind of a symbol for innocence, because that's what a carousel is, something that I think of that I would go on as a kid.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I think it's a symbol of innocence. It's a symbol of, childhood. And also I love the idea, and this is kind of like one of the themes, sort of like the generational aspect of families and the fact, it's a carousel that goes round and round. So there's that aspect to it. It's a very, very classic image. And it's actually kind of funny, like around when my son was born, my house is like a super old house, like a 1920s craftsman style house. So all the furniture in the house is like antiques from like the late 1800s, early 1800s and stuff. So I love going to antique shops and picking up little things here and there. And when my son was born, one of the things that I found was this carousel. It wasn't a complete carousel, but it's actually the last photo that you see. I know people are listening, but on the website, if you look up the lyrics for "Remember the Laughter," it's the last photo on the main page. That's a picture of the horse, and it's attached to this bass that makes the melody that you hear playing on the record every once in a while, as kind of like the callback to your child, or to the person's childhood and the person's memories. So I just love the idea of the horse, and it's super weird. Like, if I really like kind of step back and look around my house, I have a lot of like carousel sort of horses, or like riding horses that are in the house that my kid likes to ride. So it was definitely connected to my family and to the record as a whole.
That's incredible, and I mean, it sounds like, and I could guess from it when I was listening to it. It sounds like a very personal record, and I think that. I'm excited. I'm just someone who genuinely loves music, and I love when people really like to go, this is who I am. And as much as I love like the big booming theatricality of stuff, I like when there's that personal touch to it, and that sense that you can kind of sense someone's story and their identity. So I think that's fantastic, and I'm super stoked everybody's gonna get to hear this in a couple weeks. I'm bummed it's not coming out a little bit earlier, because I really want people to
I know. Yeah, I know. I can't wait for everybody to check it out. Anybody that I played it for is, really great response. And what's cool is like it's been mine and my family's for 3.5 years, and they've been on the journey with me to help create it. And now once it goes out into the world, it belongs to everybody else. And I'm ready to let the bird fly, like kind of take its wings and see where it goes. And hopefully people appreciate it. And ultimately I want people to get hopefully something, whether it's a bit of inspiration or just a little bit of comfort, whatever it is. I hope it. I just hope it makes people feel good and they really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, we'll bring this to a close. I had two more brief questions that will wrap this up. First off,
sure.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you and pick your brain about your music, and I think it's really cool that you've been so open about like My Chemical Romance stuff, because I try really hard to not, like, if I'm talking with a songwriter who is in another band that was more notable, I try to really focus on the record itself that they're working on and not be like, so when you guys did this with your old band, I always worry I'm going to do that. So I think it's awesome that you're open. But I did have one single My Chemical Romance question, and that was in regards to Living with Ghosts, because of how that came out. I was curious to know when the concept for that idea came about, because it was a very awesome concept, and it was really cool to go back and hear some of the Paramore sessions and to hear kind of that, just some of the songs in their truly raw form. But I guess my question is, when did that idea to release Living with Ghosts come into play for you guys?
Well, we definitely wanted to do something special for the 10th anniversary. It's crazy. It's like in the moment when you're living it, like when that record came out, we knew it meant a lot to people. But after so many years have gone by, and especially too, even after the band breakup, like it's crazy to see how relevant the band still is and how important it is to kids. Like, I mean, kids are listening to My Chem that weren't even born when we were playing, and that just blows my mind. It's crazy. So, we wanted to do something, a little bit special for the 10th anniversary, and we thought it was important to share, kind of what was part of that process, and how, how a band develops ideas and, the songs they sort of discard because there's sort of like higher fruit or more songs that connect to the record better. And it's sort of like kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit, where for the most part, I feel like we've been very secretive, especially now too. It's kind of crazy. I feel everybody is either like live blogging or, I don't know, periscoping, or I don't know. It's like people just share everything, right? And I feel like there's a huge amount of mystery about how we made the record, and kind of the writing process portion of it. And, so that we felt like, diehard fans and new fans too kind of deserve the chance to see what goes on a little bit behind the scenes in a musical sense, not visually so much, but, in a musical sense, in the writing process for a record like that.
Absolutely. Well, that's so awesome. I was a huge fan of that record, and I still am. But kind of what you were saying about the internet and how people were sharing stuff constantly, like the day that 10-second video clip you guys put up with just the flag and the date, I think I looked at the video, I shared it on my page, I went into work, and then I checked it like an hour later, and it was like at 2 million views or something, and I was just like, what the fuck? I wasn't even at my desk for that long, and it blew up, and I was so like, it's just crazy how fast people share stuff. So it's just crazy. Like, do you think that if that record had come out, it's sort of a hypothetical question, if that record had come out today with the technology and with the Facebook era of things, do you think it would have been received differently, or do you think it would have achieved the same kind of reception?
It's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. I feel ultimately, no matter what, at least to me anyway, no matter what time period you release something, like it's going to find the audience that it needs to at that time. as far as whether it would have been, bigger or less well received, that I can't say, but I feel like the people who needed that record would find it no matter what. So
definitely.
I guess that's how I feel about that.
Very nice. Okay, well, the last question I have is one that I use to close out every music interview that I do, and I give this preface because it's a very broad question, but I hope it can always inspire some really cool answers. So the question itself is, what does music mean to you?
To me, it means life. I feel rejuvenated when I make music. I feel more myself. I feel like I'm able to process life and experience life in different ways because of music. It has allowed me to be able to raise a family, own a home, to provide for my family. I mean, it's, there's so many aspects to it. It's, really means the world to me, and I feel, beyond blessed that I get to do it, that I get to make music.
Beautifully said. Ray, it was such a pleasure to speak with you, and I will definitely get this up. This should be going up within the next week. I have a pretty quick turnaround time with podcasts, and
okay.
And we'll get a review of the album up and everything, and we'll get the word out about this. It was so wonderful to talk to you. I can't say that enough, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm glad you reached out. It was fun talking to you.
Man, thank you so much. I mean,
you got it.
All right, I will send this over to you when it's all ready to go, and we'll go from there. And congratulations again on the release of Remember the Laughter.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much. Hey, man, you got to make sure to get some sleep tonight. You've been up early.
Yeah, as soon as my shift finishes at work, I am passing out. So I'm
all right. Good.
So I will definitely take you up on that. So
all right.
Take care.
All right, you too, man. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ray Toro's new record, Remember the Laughter, will be available on November 18th, 2016. To pre-order the record and find out more about his music, visit www.raytoro.com. This has been another shameless promotion.